Alright, hey guys, how's it going? It's Kire here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I want to do some quick tips on how to help you beat the Ice Golem dungeon. Currently we have a live Ice Golem tournament right now, and so I figured it would be a good time to talk about some tips and tricks that I've learned to help deal with the Ice Golem. We've made it to the Ice Golem. Here, let me break down his moves really quick. His A1, which is attacks all enemies. His A2, which is attacks all enemies, places a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. And then here's where it actually matters. Is going to be his passives here. This is what makes the fight so annoying and difficult. It's going to be this one right here, which is his Frigid Vengeance, which is attacks on enemies one time, whether Kylo's HP drops below 80, 60, 45, 30, and 15%. Does attack will revive any dead allies to 100%. This attack ignores 50% of each enemy's defense for each ally alive. This attack also has a 20% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. The chance of placing a freeze debuff is increased by 40% for each ally alive. So the absolute important thing is we have to kill these side guys before we can actually attack him, because he's going to ignore 100% defense, or so 50% per character, and then also freeze an additional 40% per each one alive. But he actually hits very weakly if you have both of them killed. So the things we're going to need to, like debuffs we're going to want to look for are poison or first thing I should say is attack down. Attack down is very critical in this fight, just in case you accidentally proc him. It could, save you from, wiping. Another thing that's really important, ideally you have a reser. A reser is really good. Not everyone has a reser, so shields are really good. Ally protection plus shield combos are really good, stuff like that, to keep people topped up in case you procced it. But the big thing you're going to want to make sure you do is take care of these guys first. Have a team focused on single target damage to the side characters here, because if you're constantly spamming AoEs, he might you might accidentally proc this 80, 60, 45% chances throughout your runs. Also, another thing too is you really don't counterattack is sometimes kind of bad in this, because you counterattack your team. He just does his normal auto attack, like his A1 here, and then all your guys, auto attack him. You still have these guys up. So this is one of the, and then he just wipes you, like one shots you. So this is one of the few places where it might not be the best to use counterattack. Whereas pretty much everything in the game, counterattack runs it. So like I have Valkyrie and I've tried her in this, and I've caused wipes accidentally due to counterattack. Even though she does provide a really good shield, she's a defense character that's going to get completely one shot because he's ignoring 100% of her defense. So then lastly, we have, just the classic boss thing, which is, immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, blood cooldown, skill, fear, and true fear debuffs. So he is not immune to turn meter, but he essentially has, he's kind of like pseudo immune to turn meter, because, he's going to just go after he reaches certain thresholds. So characters that you normally would want to avoid are like these kind of AoE nukers. So like I want to get into this team later. I just want to break down the mechanics of the comp. There is a little trick that you can do with the AI that I think is really cool that allows faster speed runs. So there is a trick that you can do that involves rail guards, but for most people you're going to want to avoid using these HP nukers, because you're just going to nuke and then he's going to one-shot you, because so it's going to be something to avoid. Also, another thing to note about this boss is the AI of your characters seems to function significantly weirder in this fight. So this is usually going to be a pretty slow fight, usually like a grinder style. That's why I think it's really important to cover some of the tips to help save you from these really annoying dungeon runs, and that just lead up to a wipe or whatever. So now that we got the mechanics of the fight, let's go over what characters are good, like what you're going to be looking for. What we're going to want to find is there's going to be a couple things we got to manage here. We got to manage a good team that's going to be able to take care of the Ice Golem, while also being able to manage some of the waves, because wave 2 is actually pretty tricky with how the buffs, like the reflect damage. You don't want to have people that are too squishy, because they could just kill themselves on that wave. And that could happen. It's really nice. That's why Arbiter's like super nice for this fight, because it allows you to take these kind of glass cannons in there, and even if they die, you just pick them back up. But if you're not really working with something like that, making sure you have buff removers, and so you can actually, or just enough shields and raw healing to be able to heal through those buffs. So that should be able to take care of you through round 2. But then, and that's why I like Kire, he cleanses those buffs usually, but with this comp, you can just kill him before that, but not many people have that luxury. So making sure you really respect that wave and take care of it properly is going to be really important. Then, but also those characters need to not only be able to take care of that, but then once you get to the Ice Golem, you're going to want to have a good balance of abilities that to actually be able to beat the boss. And the abilities you're going to want to look for. So the first thing is going to be an attack down. Attack down is super important. I like it on an AoE. I think that's just significantly better. Unless you're like kind of manualing the auto, like where you like click where he goes. Like you could use that for like Tyrell, but preferably be something like Piedma, something like Madame Ceres. I think Madame Ceres is absolutely the best when it comes to fulfilling that role. But there's a whole bunch of other options too that can fulfill it. And the next would be some kind of like shield way of like sustaining your team. So healers, Bad L comes to mind. The probably the most notable one is going to be Miscreated Monster. He's an absolute beast in this. He can definitely keep your team up through his shields. It's really important to have shields and stuff for this encounter based on how the mechanics of the fight work, because when he's just completely wiping your defense, normally having a defense up is good. Like a lot of bosses you could completely die, but then the second you introduce a defense up in the encounter, it makes it significantly easier, but not necessarily when it comes to Ice Golem. This is a very unique encounter in that situation. So that's why big health pools, heals, and shields are going to be where you're going to want to go. Like ally protection is really important too in this, and that's going to be a good way of sustaining you in this fight. And then lastly, how are you going to do your damage to the actual boss? And so for most people, it's going to be through poison and through just, through raw damage. Usually what's going to happen is it's going to be a long grinder fight until like later on when you get like a pretty good, speed comp for it. But it's going to be through poisons. Poisons are really great because it avoids his every, when he goes 80%, 60%, he'll retaliate. If he hits the thresholds through poison, then he'll just skip his turn. Like he won't just get a go again. So that's why poison is really good against him. And preferably you want like poison, like Dracomorph. Like I know he's legendary and stuff like that, but why I'm using him specifically is because when he places his poisons, he's doing an AoE and he doesn't actually hit him. He's just placing the poisons. That's why he's so good at this encounter. And so you want something like that. Or you're just going to want to be able to slowly whittle away through a system of healing, shielding, and then picking apart his 2 minions and then attacking him. He goes, and then you slowly whittle down the boss. And that's pretty much the most common way of being able to beat the Ice Golem. It's not a fun dungeon, but it is nice to be able to take care of it when the time comes when the rewards are worth it, like in this tournament we got here. Since we got like an Ice Golem tournament, I think it's important to actually take care of it. There is some like decent gear in here too. It's not like my biggest priority, but it is nice to have. So now that we kind of get an idea how to beat the boss, I did want to show just kind of a tip of how you could speedrun it, because it is an annoying boss. This is something to look forward to later on when you actually, hopefully you got some lucky pulls, could be able to pull this out. But I wanted to show that this is possible because I used it for the longest time. I was running this in like 3 minutes. It would take forever. But once I found out, like I kind of found this on an accident. And apparently it was down, but I just did it on accident. But what happens is if you use, because the AI is very wonky in this fight. So when I get to it, I'll show you. But so we clear these guys. And these guys could be an issue with you'll see the reflect damage maybe. But it's nice once you get to the point where you can just clear him and not have to deal with it. But I used to use Kire to like cleanse the buffs. So now when we get to here, so normally Royal Guard wouldn't do his AoE unless these guys are dead. But if you just target this side one, see it passed 80%, but he still didn't auto attack. So boom, it passed 80%, but he still did not, or 60%, but he still didn't auto attack. So that's what's so funny. It's just a really cool glitch that you can take advantage of to get these speed runs. And so you just make sure that you're constantly targeting these side characters, and then they'll still do their AoE anyway. And you won't have to worry about him retaliating and reducing 100% of your defense when he does. So really cool way to speed up your runs it runs went from something super long to like minute 30 now. So I'm pretty happy about that. Hopefully they don't patch it. This boss is so annoying that I would rather them just keep this in, but it is kind of like a mini exploit on how to be able to abuse the boss. All right, guys. Well, that should do it for this video. If you want to, best way to support this ad-free raid channel is to hit that like button. It actually really helps. Apparently, that's like the best way to help out a YouTube channel is hitting that like button. It really pushes the video out. So please be sure to hit that. And you guys have a good one. Peace.